Good morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and good morning, boys. Welcome to our Founders Day ceremony of 2025. The ceremony is a solemn and formal occasion. Please do not applaud or clap during the ceremony, other than after the guest speaker's address, and please follow my lead when to stand and when to sit during the ceremony. Let's please stand for the entrance of the stage party and the unveiling of the flags. Please remain standing for the national anthem.
Good morning and welcome to our Founders Day ceremony. A warm word of welcome to our special guests, members of the school governing body, current heads of the campus schools, namely Mr. Cedric Polman of Boys Junior School, Dr. Jen Wallace of Girls High School, and Mrs. Melanie Charlotte of Girls Junior School, former and current principals, deputy principals, and visiting staff. Welcome to Mr. Werner van Ketz as president of the Old Boys Union, academic staff present, parents, old boys, and young Wynberg men. Also welcome to those who are following this ceremony via live streaming. A special word of welcome to our guest of honor, Mr. Gareth Ramsey, who was a deputy head boy in 2015 and is a very successful old boy of this wonderful school. Mr. Ramsey will be delivering the John McNaughton address later on, and we are all looking forward to him sharing his thoughts with us. Our Founders Day plays a very important part in our Heritage Week. Not only do we welcome back previous generations of old boys to the school, but we also pay tribute to those people who have gone before us and sacrificed their lives to establish and develop this school as a beacon of hope in our province and country. We also celebrate our founding headmaster, John McNaughton, who was appointed as the first headmaster of the new Wynberg established school, which publicly opened its doors on the 1st of July, 1841. John McNaughton was in many ways a visionary leader with a clear and well-defined purpose and intent when the school was established. He endeavored to educate boys to become young men who will willingly contribute to society through a holistic approach to education. This approach incorporated the physical, moral, and intellectual development of boys so that they can make significant contributions. This philosophy and approach have remained steadfast for the past 184 years. Recent times have been characterized by a moral outcry on strife and wars that have torn nations apart in various parts of the world, causing innocent men, women, and children to suffer unspeakable horrors. Several world leaders have tried to intervene and to involve those warring nations in peace talks, but these efforts have thus far been in vain and seemingly fruitless. Sun Tzu, the ancient 5th century BC Chinese military strategist, who is attributed to writing the epic work on military strategy called The Art of War, is very outspoken on warfare and how it applies to military strategy and tactics. War has long been romanticized as a theater of valor, patriotism, and sacrifice, yet beneath the surface of flags, bloodshed, and medals lies a cold calculus of power, deception, and control. Rather than glorify violence, Sun Tzu advocates for minimizing conflict through intelligence, planning, and good strategy. One of his famous quotes is, "The ideal war is the one never fought," unquote. He based his approach by looking at war through a pragmatic and morally ambivalent lens and treating war as an extension of statecraft, not brute force, challenging both the ethics and effectiveness of war. War is seen as an extension of politics and not passion. Sun Tzu's philosophy is that war can never be legitimized on emotional or moral grounds, and he writes that the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. This statement epitomizes the idea that war is not about glory or destruction, but about achieving political objectives with minimal cost. Nations, therefore, need to talk more and not resort to violence to find mutually beneficial solutions. This utilitarian view contrasts starkly with Western traditions that often frame war as a moral crusade and being just. Sun Tzu's detachment suggests a cold realism that war is not about what is right and forces the reassessment of the motivations behind war. In his world, war becomes a contest of minds rather than of arms. The art of war, therefore, becomes not a manual for fighting, but a blueprint for avoiding unnecessary violence altogether. At this time, I invite you to stand with me and observe a moment of silence to honor all those who have been affected by war. Let us take a moment to reflect in silence. Please stand. Thank you. At Wynberg Boys, we strive to educate our boys holistically so they can indeed leave the memorial gates able to think for themselves and to overcome all the many challenges facing our beautiful country. Critical thinking, as one of the 21st century skills, needs to be developed and honed and ultimately applied to solve problems without resorting to violence. Our boys, as the leaders of the future, need to ask the following questions when confronted with challenges which could have dire consequences for others. Is the plan of action necessary? Is it conducive to result in a win-win situation? If not, what will the potential costs or fallouts be? And have clear exit strategies been identified? Over time, the emphasis of our Founders' Day has not only been on celebrating the establishment of such a fine school, but also on remembering those associated with our school who have devoted their lives in developing our school into such a fine institution. We celebrate current and previous generations of boys, parents, teaching and support staff, and other benefactors. Our Founders' Day is therefore not only a time to look back at the past, but to also focus on the present and look towards the future. Looking back at the past, we remember those Wynberg boys who have lost their lives in battle and who could never reap the rewards of being educated at this fine institution. One is reminded, and we pay tribute to, those Wynberg boys who sacrificed their lives in World War I, World War II, and the Korean War, when walking through the memorial gates and acknowledging the copper plaque in our garden of remembrance bearing their names. The memorial gates is especially significant this year, seeing that we commemorate 100 years of their existence. I would like to remind you of the citation written on the plaque at the gates. Men of Wynberg, enter these gates with humility, aware of the privileges and responsibilities which this school bestows on you, determined to avail yourselves of the opportunities on offer so that you too, in time, may enhance its reputation." Unquote. The memorial gates were officially commemorated in May 1925. During the First World War, 480 Wynberg schoolboys and old boys had served in the Allied forces, of which 43 never returned. To commemorate forever these fallen men and to show gratitude for those who returned, the memorial gates were built by two old boys, William Perrow and Robert Kane. Some of the comments made by the administrator of the Cape, Sir Frederick de Waal, at the opening ceremony of the gates include, and I quote, "No less than 480 of them served in various fields and capacities during the war. It was a great response. It was worthy of Wynberg, and it was worthy of this fine school. In time, it will come to be cherished as one of the traditions of your school, as something to look up to and be proud of always. By the supreme test of manhood, you were measured, and you were not found wanting. Their example will help to guide the footsteps of future generations of students who pass this gateway. Their sacrifice has not been in vain." Unquote. South Africans of all races volunteered for military service, and the war graves of all races lie scattered abroad in faraway places like France, Belgium, the Middle East, Italy, and Korea, to name but a few. Closer to home, we should remember the many South Africans of all races who died in the conflicts on our borders and in the liberation struggle of the 1960s, 70s, and 80s. As yet, there are no reliable figures for these casualties, but what is important is that they bravely contributed to the freedom of our beloved country and to building a new democratic dispensation. The act of remembrance has strong South African roots. However, to many, remembering those who sacrificed their lives in active duty in South Africa is a lost pastime and often frowned upon by the politics surrounding the conflicts. We should always honor the individuals who died, rather than the ideology that sent them to war, often unwillingly. Remembering those who sacrificed their lives in war is not about celebrating any victory, nor about boasting about achievements in conflict. In this regard, the quote by Plato, the Greek philosopher, is apt. "Only the dead have seen the end of war." Unquote. We must therefore show respect for those who are willing to serve their country or fellow oppressed compatriots and who made the ultimate sacrifice so that we who are here now can have the life that we know. Looking at the present, many of you here today have never, and probably never will, experience the ravages of war. Many of you will also probably only glancingly take note of the many copper plaques of fallen soldiers if you've been affected by wars, perhaps by losing an extended family member a long time ago. To many of you, the reading of the names of Wynberg boys on the roll of honor will therefore bear little significance. And yet, it is our duty to remember these names. However, the wars that we as South Africans are fighting today are not fought on any battlefield on our borders or at faraway locations. As South Africans, we fight an invisible enemy who have invaded our borders, neighborhoods, and homes. As South Africans continue to strive to unite as one nation, and in the midst of trying times characterized by several seemingly debilitating challenges, we need to commit to the quest for a non-racial, equal, and inclusive society, free from the horrors of conflict, prejudice, or oppression. South Africa is in the grip of wide-ranging crises, especially affecting the poor and vulnerable. Violence and criminality have become the norm, threatening the existence and future of our people, our democratic life, and heightening fear and insecurity in communities. Corruption has eaten away at our nation's soul and has severely eroded the social compact between the state and ordinary citizens. Our youth, the future of our country, are bearing the brunt for this systemic decay, instability, and turbulent times. These challenges faced by the youth in South Africa are related to high crime, unemployment, corruption, gender and domestic violence, and educational challenges in South African schools. However, our obligation as South Africans is to learn from the past, address our current challenges, but look towards the future. So, what does the future hold for our youth? I believe that our founding headmaster, John McNaughton, and those names that are inscribed on the plaque in our Garden of Remembrance hold the answer to this question. John McNaughton reminds us to strive to get a good education, to rely on our communities for support, and to make use of every opportunity to develop physically, morally, and intellectually. John McNaughton also reminds us to think for ourselves, to be solution-driven, and to also train our minds to becoming resilient to the challenges that we are facing. Our fallen soldiers remind us to protect the rights of those who also wear our blue blazer, but who might be a minority group or perhaps previously oppressed and disadvantaged or socially prejudiced. Building a better South Africa requires each and every one of us to take responsibility and to make a contribution in whatever way we can. By working together, as our school song so aptly states, as brothers in an endless chain, we can create hope and a better future for all South Africans. We certainly can succeed and ensure a brighter future for our youth if we make our school values of honesty, integrity, respect, inclusivity, and excellence a part of our DNA and a part of our moral fiber. Finally, I leave you with the following quote from Abraham Lincoln. The best way to predict your future is to create it. I encourage our Wynberg men to go out and create the future. I thank you.
Good morning, ladies, gentlemen, and Wynberg family. This lesson will be read from Ecclesiasticus 44, from verse 1 to 15. Let us now praise famous men and our fathers that begot us. The Lord hath wrought great glory by them through his great power from the beginning, such as did bear rule in their kingdoms, men renowned for their power, giving counsel by their understanding, and declaring prophecies. Leaders of the people by their counsels, and by their knowledge of learning meet for the people. Wise and eloquent are their instructions, such as found out musical tunes and recited verses in writing. Rich men furnished with ability, living peaceably in their habitations. All these were honored in their generations, and were the glory of their time. There be of them that have left a name behind them, that their praises might be reported. And some there be which have no memorial, who are perished as though they had never been, and are become as though they had never been born, and the children after them. But these were merciful men, whose righteousness has not been forgotten, who their seed shall continually remain a good inheritance, and their children are within the covenant. Their seed standeth fast, and their children for their sakes. Their seed shall remain forever, and their glory shall not be blotted out. Their bodies are buried in peace, but their name liveth forevermore. The people will tell of their wisdom, and the congregation will show forth their praise. Thank you.
God bless Africa, for she is the seed of humanity, and I am the future through her. When her roots sprout, I am born, and as her leaves unfurl, I grow. When her branches spread, I learn, and as her flowers bud, I bloom. God bless Africa, for she is the fire of creation, and I am transformed through her. When problems loom, I am challenged, and when solutions hide, I search. When suffering strikes, I ache, and when relief calls, I answer. God bless Africa, for she is the tree of life, and I am alive through her. When her roots are dry, I thirst, and when her trunk is cut, I bleed. As the seasons turn, I change, and as the fruits ripen, I flourish.
Now is the time of the year when the members of Wynberg Boys High School pause to remember the old boys of the school whose headstones are scattered in the military cemeteries in distant lands. It is gratifying to know that they have not receded into the faceless anonymity of the distant past. Can you please bow our heads while we give thanks for their lives? Nkosi Thixo, sincede sikhumbule onke amakhonga amadala esisikolo athe anikela ngobomi babo ngexesha lemfazwe ukuze sibe nokuphila ngoxolo kwaye sonwabele ubomi bethu. Sincede ukuze sibe nokulifanela idini lawo. Siyakubulela ngobomi babo ngokuba ngumzekelo kwabo kwakunye nokukhalipha kwabo. Thixo, osinika kukhulu, sicela usinika ntonye inhliziyo nombulelo ngokuzenza idini kwabo bangakhange babuye. Ungawanceda amakhwenkwe esisikolo ukuze aphile ubomi babo namhlanje ubuya kuthi buphucule ngomso labo. Lord God, help us remember all the old boys of the school who have given their lives in times of war so that we may live in peace and enjoy our lives. Grant that we may be worthy of their sacrifice. We give you thanks for their lives, for their example, and their courage. God, who gives us so much, give us one thing more, a grateful heart for the sacrifices of those who did not return. Grant that the boys of the school may live out there today and their lives will enhance our tomorrow. Amen.
In memory of former pupils of Wynberg Boys High School who fell in wartime conflict, the inscription reads, "At morning and evening, we shall remember them." World War I, 1914 to 1918, J.B. Abrams, E.J. Brody, A.K. Castons, W.A. Castons, B. Cohen, G.T. Cornwall, B. Duncan, C.H. Eliot, D. Eliot, E. Eliot, T.A. Fulby, W.J. Fish, M.S. Fox, H.T. Garrett, C.L. Giddy, C.C. Gordon, R.L. Graham, E.M. Greenwood, H.L. Harcourt, E.W. Hitchcock, C.E. Horn, K.T. Howard, J.C. Hurlin, D.B. Hudson, N. Keppel-Jones, C. Loxton, C.R. Lux, J.R. Martin, J.H. McKnight, E.J. Mills, W.H. Milner, G.V. Noax, G.E. Poole, E.G. Powell, W. Prince, C.H. Schwarman, R.O. Schwarz, G.G. Scott, S. Scott, R.R. Short, W. Solomon, W.I. Thompson, C.A. Vipan, J.E. Waters. Rand Rebellion, 1922, W.A. Kirsten. World War II, 1939 to 1944, E.C. Adams, A.J. Bates, R. Beckwith, R.B. Bull, C. Bucket, J.F.L. Bernard, G.C. Cartwright, G.F. Cutting, R. Daniels, J.C. Delbridge, I. Difford, A. Duber, A. E. Earp Jones, C.A. Friedlander, J.G. Graham, A. Haft, K. Jacobs, H.A. Job, D. McIntyre, J.B. McMillan, H. Miller, L.F. Moolman, J.S. Parsons, I.L. Posender, J. Ritchie, F. Scrimgear, Q. Scrimgear, J. Sketscorn, R. Stepheny, D. Tattershaw, J. Tom, J. A. Thwaites, S. M. Upton, E. Funchard, P. Furfat, B. Watson Smith, G. Josephson, A. Khan, N. Cog, L. Corpate, D. Langton, E. Lodelaray, R. Marstonson Smith, C. Wheeler, W. R. White, N. F. Wilkinson, D. Williams, E. Wise, R. A. Wittenberg, L. Wood. Border Conflict, D. Barry Smith, C. Brickenell, R. Davis, N. Pattenden. Our dedication to all Wynberg generations. Wynberg Boys Junior School and High School acknowledges all Wynberg families, including the families of Wynberg boys who have attended Wynberg after the opening of the school from 1991 onwards, who have been affected by the loss of life, injury, and exile during years of conflict and the liberation struggle to end apartheid in South Africa.
We now come to the part of the ceremony where we are looking ahead, having remembered our past. And it's for this reason that our guest speaker is with us today. 10 years ago, our guest of honor sat in the place where all of you boys are sitting. Gareth Ramsey matriculated from Wynberg in 2015 as the deputy head prefect, having received many awards and after making a significant contribution to the life of the school. At the valedictory prize giving in his year, Gareth won the following prizes: the W.E. Bowden Prize for Mathematics, the F.G. Thorpe Prize for Physical Sciences, the E.G.D. Prize. He earned distinctions in mathematics, E.G.D., life sciences, and physical sciences. He was second in the grade with an average of 84.2%. He also won the Thorpe Rankin Award for tertiary studies. If that wasn't enough, Gareth played first-team cricket, got blues for cricket, blues for hockey, representing Western Province under 18B, and also colours for hockey umpiring. He received the Andrew Feinstein Cup, which is the All-Rounders Award in his matric year. He also played squash, and he was the sports prefect, in addition to all the accolades previously mentioned. However, all of that pales into insignificance when compared to the thing that I consider the most important of all, and that is in his 12 years of school, from grade 1 to 12, Gareth never missed a single day of school. Tells you something about him. After school, his passion for engineering saw him attend the University of Stellenbosch, where he earned a Bachelor of Engineering degree in 2019 with honors, and 2 years later followed that up with a master's degree, also with honors. He's one of a crop of old boys in the engineering field who are all making a meaningful contribution to improving the life of all Cape Townians and South Africans in general. He was in the news recently with his stunning and creative plan to introduce a sky train to Cape Town as a way of reducing traffic congestion. He's a man with big and bold plans and a man for the future. I give you Gareth Ramsey.
Thank you, Mr. Moser, for the special introduction. And good afternoon, or still good morning, to Mr. Skeppers, all the Wynberg teachers and staff here today, honored guests, all of those who form part of the greater Wynberg family, and of course, the most important, the Wynberg men before me today. Let me express how honored I am to be invited back to speak at our school's Founders Day ceremony. It is a privilege I hope to do justice over the next couple of minutes. They say the only constant in life is change, an unavoidable reality, especially in a dynamic country like South Africa, where change is not an option but a necessity. How does Wynberg equip you young men to navigate an ever-evolving world and the oxymoron of a country that we live in and call home? For those of you who did not pay attention in English class, no, an oxymoron is not an insult you call your pointedly foolish friend. An oxymoron is when two words or ideas that seemingly mean opposite things are put together to describe something. For example, bittersweet, or a bittersweet feeling. South Africa is certainly an oxymoron of a country, with opposing extremes in every aspect of our society. South Africa is a wealthy nation with world-class infrastructure, a sophisticated financial sector. We have high-tech firms servicing clients all around the world, and an abundance of natural resources and mineral deposits. Yet we have some of the deepest poverty, inequality in the world, throwing us back into our third world reality. We are blessed with a diversity of breathtaking landscapes and wildlife, but are cursed with plagues of crime, violence, gangsterism, and substance abuse in many of our communities. We have an amazing diversity of people who do all they can to unite and build a nation, while others still attempt to create division based on race, creed, and cultural differences. How does Wynberg prepare you for this oxymoron of a country that we live in? Why should you take part in the 4 pillars of Wynberg? Why bother learning about this Pythagoras guy and his obsession with sticking squares on the sides of triangles? Why are you expected to greet anyone who crosses your path in these halls? Given how strongly this was emphasized in my day, I wouldn't be surprised if you're all greeting the squirrels on campus as well now. Believe it or not, this all has a purpose, mainly to develop the auxiliary skills and entrenched values that will remain with you in your toolbox for the rest of your lives. Skills like the ability to problem solve, think independently, simplify complex concepts into smaller, understandable parts, learning how to learn and absorb knowledge, effective communication, and working with a diverse group of people in situations that may be uncomfortable for you in order to achieve a common goal. Developing these auxiliary skills are more valuable than any pure academic knowledge you learn in these classrooms, and it requires that you put into practice the Wynberg values of courage, respect, integrity, and commitment. These values have consistently proven vital in my life beyond school, and I would like to share a few thoughts on these today. The first of these values is courage. Winston Churchill described courage as, "Courage is rightly esteemed the first of human qualities, because it has been said it is the quality which guarantees all others." Courage is the ability to do something that frightens you and underpins all other human virtues. You cannot stand for your values and principles, speak truth, or act with honor if you don't first have the courage to do so. Most of us are not afraid of trying something new. We are afraid of the resulting failure, this attempt at something new may bring. Some of you may have heard of the Marshmallow Challenge. It's something that I was able to play during a recent leadership course. There was a study conducted on this, and the study conducted on groups of individuals where teams of 4 must build the tallest freestanding structure out of 20 sticks of spaghetti, 1 meter of masking tape, 1 meter of string, and 1 marshmallow. Participants have 18 minutes to complete the challenge. The only rule, the marshmallow must be placed on top, and the team with the tallest structure wins. Seems simple, right? In the study, each of these groups were composed of people from specific industries, namely recent business school graduates, lawyers, engineers, CEOs of big companies, and preschool children, aged 5 and 6. Which of these groups do you think built the tallest structures? Well, the business school graduates did the worst, followed by the lawyers, and then the CEOs, all failing to impress. But who did the best? The engineers, thankfully. Keep in mind that they are trained to build stable structures. But what is interesting is that the preschoolers achieved the second highest structures. But why? Well, the business school graduates spent all their time planning, the lawyers spent most of their time arguing, and the CEOs spent most of their time trying to figure out who would lead the group. As they all eventually built their structures, things were going to plan, and then just before time ran out, they would place the marshmallow on top. And Well, we all know the rather crude saying to describe the crisis of chaos when specifically a particular type of feces hits the fan. Well, in this case, the marshmallow hits the floor. The structures toppled over, resulting in complete panic, and as they tried to scramble something together before time ran out, they ended up achieving nothing of any significance. This sounds a bit like schoolboys scrambling an assignment together or finishing off their homework mere seconds before it is due, right? On the other hand, the preschoolers began building their marshmallow towers straight away. No planning, no arguments, no competition for leadership. After 2 minutes, they had their first structure built, which failed. After 5 minutes, they had their second structure built, which also failed. By 10 minutes, another structure was built, slightly higher and more structurally sound than the previous two, but that too failed. By the time 18 minutes were up, the preschoolers had gone through 6 or 7 iterations of their marshmallow towers. With each iteration that failed, they learned something to take forward into the next iteration. The preschoolers had multiple attempts to learn, fix, and rebuild their prototypes, where all the other groups had just one attempt to build their structures. The preschoolers outperformed the other groups not because they were smarter or stronger, but because they had no fear of failure in their attempts at trying something new over and over again, learning as they went. At university, I failed my first engineering mathematics test with 20%. I had to have the courage to continue, try something new, and expose myself to further failure as I learned in order to succeed. Albert Einstein once wrote, after making a flawed calculation, "I've committed a grave error, but I do not feel ashamed about it, because at least I had the courage to tackle the problem." The lesson: have courage to expose yourself to potential failure and learn like a preschooler. Hand in hand with the courage to fail is having the courage to ask questions. In school, I would consistently ask questions in class. This continued into university, where I was known as the question master or Captain Question by my fellow students. On many occasions, fellow students would thank me after class for asking a specific question because they did not have the courage to do it themselves. I think we are often scared to ask questions because we believe or we perceive it to be a sign of stupidity. To the contrary, it is a sign of intelligence. Intelligence is not the ability to quantify how much you do know. It is the ability to identify what you don't know or understand and actively seek the answer. Have the courage to ask questions and have the difficult conversations in search of understanding and knowledge. On the point of courage and intelligence, I'm reminded of grade 8, when we were waiting outside our first ethics class with Mr. Richardson, who happens to be here today. When Mr. Richardson emerged from the class, he asked us which class we were. We enthusiastically replied, 8E, sir. Mr. Richardson responded, 8E? E for what? After a brief silence, one of my new classmates confidently shouted out, E for intelligence, sir. You can see that flew over some of the boys' heads. Mr. Richardson's distraught facial expression said it all. I'm not sure if this should be classified as courage or flawed confidence. But needless to say, this classmate did end up matriculating after 5 years at Wynberg. The next value I want to talk to you today about is respect. Respect, probably the most relevant value you need to have in a diverse society such as ours. Respect is having due regard for the feelings, wishes, rights, beliefs, and views or traditions of others. We are often told that respect must be earned. I disagree with this concept because it implies that before you will respect someone else, they need to somehow prove to you that they are worthy. Rather, I believe that respect should be freely given to anyone you engage with in life. There should be no prerequisite that needs to be achieved before you are willing to acknowledge another person's views, beliefs, or opinions. This, I believe, is one of the reasons you are taught to greet anyone who crosses your path here at Wynberg. This simple act of a warm greeting with a smile, showing compassion and friendliness, is the offering of your unconditional respect to that individual and the acknowledgement of their presence in your shared environment. Your ability to freely offer your respect to those around you creates an easy stepping stone to show others friendliness and compassion. I recently had the opportunity to meet the chairman of a big multinational logistics company. What stood out for me was that he had no ego, no airs or graces we tend to expect from powerful people. If you didn't know who he was, you wouldn't have guessed that he runs a company worth billions of US dollars. He continuously displayed genuine respect, friendliness, compassion, and humility to me and all those he engaged with, from the security guards to the administrators during the engagement. I couldn't say the same for some of his senior colleagues, though, but the point I want to make is that you should freely show respect, friendliness, and compassion to everyone that crosses your path, because you will be judged by society on how you treat those, or on how you treat and respect those with less power than yourself. Showing respect, though, does not mean that you cannot disagree with others or voice your opposing views and opinions. But knowing how to respect while engaging in conflict or debate is a skill that I encourage you to develop. People do not generally take offense with what you say, but rather with how you go about saying it. The ability to respectively communicate your opposing points of view is a skill that can turn any destructive argument into a constructive discussion. In the South African context, this is a skill that's deeply and desperately needed, given our diversity of views. How often do we see the supposedly honorable parliamentary debates becoming destructive arguments of insults, rather than constructive discussions of progress? While courage is what it takes to stand up and speak, respect, and sometimes a little courage too, is what it takes to sit down and listen. Show respect to others by listening with intent and the desire to genuinely understand their points of view. Many of our political leaders get this wrong, where they are comfortable to courageously deliver a rousing speech on stage, but few will sit down and listen to reason. In your lives, have the respect and courage to sit down and listen, with the intention to understand the other person's opinions and points of views, even if they differ to your own. Integrity. Integrity is often described as having strong moral principles and being honest, fair, and consistent in your actions, even when no one is watching. While this is true, I would like to add that integrity is the ability to stand by your values and principles, even when everyone is watching, and it is difficult or unpopular to do so. South Africa has many individuals who displayed immense amounts of integrity during our fight for the formation of our democratic South Africa. Names like Nelson Mandela come to mind, probably one of the greatest leaders of integrity this world has ever seen. Archbishop Desmond Tutu, the man who introduced us to the concept of the Rainbow Nation. But by show of hands, how many of you here have heard of a woman by the name of Helen Suzman? Good, a decent amount of you, I'm glad. But for those who don't know, I was not taught about her in any history class at school. I only found out about her when I saw a road named after her while working on a personal project for the city of Cape Town, where one could say I am attempting to uphold the integrity of my own engineering principles. So who was Helen Suzman? Helen Suzman was born in Gauteng in 1917 to Lithuanian Jewish immigrant parents. She decided to enter into politics as a result of witnessing the tightening of the apartheid laws by the National Party in the late 1940s. She believed strongly in classical liberal democratic values of equality, human rights, and the rule of law, and as such felt compelled to act against apartheid oppression. In 1953, she was elected to Parliament, representing the United Party, the main opposition at the time. However, She became frustrated that the United Party did not completely oppose all apartheid policies. This led her to form the Progressive Party in 1959, which had a clear anti-apartheid and pro-human rights stance. The Progressive Party contested the 1961 elections, winning just one parliamentary seat, less than 1% of Parliament, with Helen Suzman as the sole parliamentary representative. For the next 13 years, Helen Suzman's one parliamentary seat was the only voice consistently opposing all apartheid laws and advocating for equality, human rights, and true democracy. She stated, "I stand for simple justice, equal opportunity, and human rights, the indispensable elements in a democratic society, and well worth fighting for." Helen Suzman's Progressive Party eventually became the official opposition in 1981. By her retirement in 1989, she had spent 36 years in Parliament, fighting for an equal and democratic South Africa, becoming the longest-serving female MP at the time. She showed immense integrity, having firmly stood for her values and principles, even when it was hugely unpopular to do so. Having a single seat in Parliament for 13 years, she literally had everyone else against her. In the end, she prevailed, as the core values and principles she championed now form the foundation of South Africa's constitution we enjoy today. How many of you disregard your values and principles depending on the situation or the company you keep? You know that feeling of guilt you get in these situations? Some may call it your conscience talking to you. Well, in fact, that's your sense of integrity, reminding you of the values and principles you claim to uphold. Have the integrity to stand for your values, principles, and what's right, when everyone is watching, even if it's the unpopular thing to do. Commitment. Commitment is a core personal and professional value, signifying unwavering dedication, loyalty, and perseverance toward a goal, cause, or relationship, demonstrating self-discipline and reliability. It means showing up for your peers and teammates in the classroom, on the sports field, or on stage. It is a value that is a growing scarcity in South African society today. One of the greatest absences of our commitment to this country currently deals with the absent fathers. Studies suggest that more than 50% of South African children grow up without their biological fathers present, and around 24% live without any adult man or fatherly figure present in their lives. Show commitment to your friends, your family, your future wife, your partner one day, and your future children. Have commitment to your academics, sports, culture, and service-related activities at Wynberg. By doing this, you are showing commitment to your future self and the parents, guardians, and sponsors who have made sacrifices for you to enjoy the privilege of being here today. Commit to uphold and defend these values, principles, and freedoms enshrined in our hard-fought Constitution. Freedoms that you enjoy today because of the sacrifices of those who have come before you, many of whose names you have heard this morning. This leads me to my biggest concern I have with my fellow youth of today, specifically our lack of commitment to our country, especially given that most of our country's problems directly affect us and our futures. Poverty, crime, unemployment, lack of economic growth are all issues that affect our daily lives and are proportionally related to the decisions and policies of our aging political leaders. As the saying goes, you may not be interested in politics, but politics is interested in you. Our official youth unemployment rate for those younger than 35 years of age currently sits at 46%, and the expanded rate, including those who have given up on looking for work, reportedly sits at just under 60%. Statistically, between you and your mate sitting next to you today, just one of you will find work after school. We are the generation that will bear the brunt of this and other ever-escalating issues our country faces. Yet us, young people, constantly relinquish and delegate our power to older generations. I'm not saying that every one of you here needs to go run for president or become a politician, to have commitment to our country, but something as simple as being an active citizen and voting in our elections is just a simple way you can show your commitment to your country. On election day last year, I volunteered as an election observer at my local voting station. The queues were long, most needing to wait 2 to 3 hours to cast their vote. But there was a clear age demographic, with the vast majority being over the age of 40 or 50. A lady approached me, asking if we could assist her elderly husband to cast his vote. She pulled up the car and parked at the entrance to the voting station. And at this point, it was clear that her husband was extremely frail and not mobile at all. But he was determined to exercise his vote. After some discussions with the IEC officials and the political party agents, we were able to arrange that he could cast his vote from the car, with all required IEC protocols observed and election observers present. This elderly gentleman recognized the importance of his right to vote and showed commitment to our country because he had lived through our troubled past. His vote will not make any significant impact on the rest of his life, yet he still made the effort to vote for this country's future and the generations that will follow. In Nelson Mandela's 1999 State of the Nation address, he said, "As long as many of our people still live in utter poverty, as long as children still live under plastic covers, as long as many of our people are still without jobs, no South African should rest or wallow in the joy of freedom." Our generation takes for granted these rights and hard-won freedoms secured by those before us. Roughly half of you today will be able to vote in the next local government elections. And just about all of you will be able to vote in the next national elections. Many of you will say, "I don't want to waste hours standing in long queues to vote," while others will say, "My vote won't make a difference." To this I answer, while we complain about waiting in a queue for 2 hours to cast a free and fair vote, we forget that a man had to sit in prison for 27 years waiting for his right to vote. A woman fought for 36 years in Parliament so that you could cast your ballot. Many were killed in the pursuit of your right to vote today. And others died waiting for this most basic of rights and freedoms. To those that say that their vote won't make a difference, consider this. The youth in South Africa make up the most powerful potential voting bloc in this country. But our voice is never heard because we don't vote. This is what I meant earlier when I stated that we as the youth relinquish and delegate our power to the older generations when it comes to the decisions about our future. Out of the roughly 11 million young people aged 18 to 29 in South Africa, just 2.3 million voted in the last elections. A real voter turnout of just 21%. For comparison, the real voter turnout for those aged 70 to 79 is close to 71%. If those 8.7 million young people who chose not to vote all decided to vote for one political party, let's call it the Youth Party of South Africa, that party would be the largest political force in South Africa today. If everyone aged 18 to 35 voted for this theoretical Youth Party of South Africa, it would comfortably have more than 50% of the vote and an outright majority in Parliament. So display commitment to your country and in every aspect of your personal and professional life. Be the active citizen this country needs, because at the end of the day, it'll be us that pay the consequences of our inaction in the decades to come. To end, I want each of you young men here today to look to your left and your right, down the rows of the boys next to you. Turn around and look at the men behind you. Look ahead of those in front of you. Now, each one of you will have seen someone of a different race, ethnicity, culture, religion, socioeconomic class, and belief system to that of your own. I want you to ask yourselves, why in a world that seems to be increasingly divided by race, creed, culture, populist narratives, and ideological differences, are you able to stand and support each other here as brothers in an endless chain? Why, when conflicts in Africa, the Middle East, South Asia, Eastern Europe, Southeast Asia are driven by racial, ethnic, religious, and cultural supremacies, theocracies, nationalistic agendas, and imperial conquests, can we, with all our differences, sit here in peace and harmony? More than that, we will stand arm in arm as we sing our school song. We'll proudly sing the national anthem together and support our school and national teams. What sets us as young men in this hall at the southern tip of Africa and the broader South African society in general apart from the rest of the world? That our differences and diversity do not drive us apart, but are rather celebrated as our strength. It is our shared recognition of the fundamental importance of our values of courage, respect, integrity, and commitment. These values are essential for the coexistence and cohesion of our diverse society and the success of our country. This shared recognition of our values of courage, respect, integrity, and commitment are of fundamental importance to forming the foundation of unity and coexistence, enabling the strength in our diversity, and the key to our nation's future success. Let us never forget or neglect these values, but dedicate ourselves to living them with purpose and conviction every day. I'd like to wish you every success this weekend, and remember that the values you display on and off the field will be remembered long after any scoreline that may result. Supera Moras, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ramsey. From the Wynberg family, we would just like to extend our deepest thanks and acknowledgements for that wonderful speech you gave us on the eye-opener that we as the men of Wynberg, and not just the men as Wynberg, but citizens of South Africa, really have a role to play in shaping our future and the generations to come. So from our Wynberg family, we would just like to extend our greatest gratitude for your speech and just wish you the best of luck in your future to come. Thank you so much.
While we sing the school song, let's think about Jim Goodacre, the writer of the school song. He was the deputy headmaster of Wynberg Boys Junior School when I was a boy at the junior school. I can hear the boys are trying to work things out now. It was Jim that decided to write a school song, but I don't think Jim ever imagined that he would leave such a legacy behind. Jim's words in the school song have played such a big role in shaping this school over the last 50 years and has had such an impact on the lives of many brothers in an endless chain. Jim passed away earlier this year, but through the words of this song, his legacy will live on for many generations of Wynberg boys. Let's sing the school song together.
Good is Could I ask my guests and the boys just to take a seat while the stage party leaves the venue? Thank you.
Could you in your question to them, and that is...
Just while we have our invited guests, I'd like to extend my thanks and certainly the thanks of the staff to the boys gathered here in the magnificent, respectful way in which you observed today's proceedings. You certainly gave what is a flagship event in our school's calendar the gravity that it deserves and that warrants. So I really want to thank you, boys, for the way that you conducted yourselves during today's ceremony. Before I ask our invited guests to leave, I'm just going to ask you, Mr. Moser has asked me to actually ask you, the first boy who can tell me, and I'll tell Mr. Moser your name if you get it right, how many deputy head boys you saw on the stage today. So if you, well, okay, we won't. But I will wait for you to come and give me your answers. I'll record your names and answers, and I'll give that to Mr. Moser. At this point, thank you, boys. I will ask our invited guests to stand. Refreshments, ladies and gentlemen, are served in our refurbished library, so not in the fishbowl. Just make your way up the stairs to the library. Thank you. And yeah, that includes our parents, I beg your pardon, our parents too, thank you. Right, so if you're certain of the number of deputy head prefects on the stage, please come and let me know. Come to me. At this stage, I will hand you over to the head prefect.
Right, gents, stand up and pack up the chairs.